Hey guys, tonight we're heading back nearly 2,000 years to a time of roaring crowds, dusty sandals, and the not-so-gentle art of staying alive in the Roman Colosseum. Picture this. You're standing in the shadow of a towering marble structure, sunlight blazing off its curved white stone. You can smell the mixture of sweat, animals, and something oddly metallic, maybe blood, maybe bronze. Your heart is pounding. Somewhere nearby, a lion is pacing behind a gate. And you're about to become part of the entertainment. Yeah, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And feel free to let me know your location and what time it is where you're listening. Always love seeing how far this sleepy little empire reaches. Now dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing to accept is that this isn't your life anymore. Somehow, maybe you were captured in a border war, maybe you committed a crime, or maybe, just maybe, you actually volunteered. You've ended up a gladiator in training. The Roman Empire, ever resourceful, had many ways of sourcing its fighters. Most were slaves or prisoners of war, though there were also condemned criminals, debtors, and, believe it or not, some adrenaline-seeking free men chasing fame and prize money. Historians still argue whether volunteering was more common than the records suggest, or just a rare eccentricity. Either way, you've been processed. Your name doesn't matter. You've likely been stripped, branded, or tattooed depending on your status, and had your hair shorn off. It's a clean slate, literally. This is partly to prevent lice, but mostly to erase your past. You are now property of the lanista, the head of a gladiator school, or ludus. Think gym manager meets drill sergeant meets mildly terrifying mob boss. You've arrived at the ludus in chains, tired and sore. The building itself feels more like a barracks than a school. Thick stone walls, a central courtyard for training, and dormitories that are dark, cramped, and smell like a mix of damp straw and old cabbage. The lanista eyes you like a butcher inspecting meat. You're catalogued, weighed, and handed a scratchy tunic. Welcome to your new home. But before we dive too deep into your daily misery, let's take a sleepy step back and appreciate the absurdity. This empire, at its height, stretches from Spain to Syria, and here you are, a footnote in its bloody entertainment industry. The Colosseum itself, properly called the Flavian Amphitheatre, can hold more than 50,000 people. That's more than most NBA arenas, by the way. Built with the spoils of war, including riches plundered from Judea, it's a towering symbol of Roman dominance and your potential doom. Construction began under Emperor Vespasian and was completed by his son, Titus. When it opened in 80 CE, they celebrated with 100 straight days of games, beast hunts, executions, and of course, gladiator duels. It's basically the Super Bowl, but every day, and with slightly fewer nachos. And here's the kicker, entry was free. The Roman elite paid for the whole thing to buy public favor, bread and circuses, as the old phrase goes. Keep the people fed and entertained, and they won't revolt. You're the circus. As you shuffle toward your bunk, you catch sight of a few of your fellow inmates. One of them looks like he used to wrestle oxen. Another mutters to himself in a language you don't understand. You wonder what crimes or misfortunes landed them here? You don't ask. Everyone's eyes are tired. One man, clearly new, like you, starts sobbing quietly. No one reacts. The guards don't even flinch. In the corner of the room stands a wooden sword, a ludus used for training. Eventually, if you're skilled and lucky enough to earn your freedom, you'll receive one as a token of release. But that's a distant dream. For now, that ludus is just a painful, splinter delivery system wielded by your instructors. Sleep doesn't come easy that first night. The straw mattress is lumpy, and your body still aches from whatever event landed you here. Maybe a battle, maybe a betrayal. You lie awake, staring at the wooden beams above you, wondering what kind of place this is. You imagine the arena, the crowd, the heat of the sun. What if you win? What if you lose? And then there's the noise. One of the men snores like a donkey stuck in a wine barrel. Another whispers prayers in Greek. Somewhere outside, a dog barks and is swiftly silenced. You tuck your arms in tight, like the thin wool blanket might shield you from what's to come. By morning, you're already regretting all your life choices, but there's no time to reflect. A gruff voice shouts Latin commands, and the whole dorm springs to life. Your first real day in the ludus begins. And survival? Well, it's going to take more than muscles and hope. But hey, at least you're not in the lion's cage yet. They wake you with a stick. Not a metaphor. It's a literal stick to the ribs from one of the guards, grinning just a bit too much for someone who's up this early. You groan, shuffle out of bed, and join the sluggish line of new recruits heading into the outer yard. First, on the day's agenda, roll call. A man with an ink-stained scroll calls out strange names. Many of them aren't names at all, but nicknames or origins. Numidian, Redbeard, Gaul. When he gets to you, he stares for a moment, squints, and writes something. From this point forward, you're not whoever you used to be. You're just the Spaniard, or One Eye, or maybe that one who looks confused. Doesn't matter. You answer when called. That's survival rule 1. After roll call comes the real initiation. Stripping down, scrubbing off, and inspecting your body like your cattle at auction. If you're especially skinny or bruised, the trainers might note that down. If you're strong-looking, they'll whisper about you. Not praise, just probabilities. You're not a person to them. You're a bet, a commodity. How many fights can you last before you're mulch? One of the first things they do, assuming it hasn't been done already, is shave you clean. Head, beard, everything. Hygiene matters in a building full of sweaty men sleeping inches apart. Sure, but it's also psychological. You strip someone down, take their hair, their name and their clothes, and soon enough, they'll start to feel like something new, something owned. And then comes branding. Not everyone gets it. If you're a condemned criminal, you'll get a stigma, a hot iron pressed to your skin, maybe your face. It tells everyone what you are. But if you were just captured in war or sold into slavery by creditors or unlucky relatives, they might skip that part. Historians still argue whether branding was used more for punishment or property control. Either way, let's just say it doesn't tickle. Now you're given your standard issue tunic, scratchy, brownish grey, and about as flattering as a wet potato sack. Shoes, if you're lucky, a pair of worn sandals. If not, bare feet until someone coughs up a spare. Once you're dressed and processed, they march you toward the ludus proper. And here's where things get interesting. This place is a weird mix of school, prison, and military base. There are dorms, kitchens, storage rooms, and most importantly, the palestra, the open-air courtyard where all your training will happen. Before you set foot inside it, though, the lanista makes his grand appearance. He's not what you expect. No armor, no cape, no barking orders. He's wearing a well-draped toga, a clean beard, and sandals that cost more than your entire family. He looks more like a banker than a boss of brawlers, but his word is law, and he knows it. With a soft voice and a hard stare, he explains the rules. You eat when told. You train until told to stop. You fight only on command. Try to run, you'll be caught, flogged, and chained. Disobey, you'll be beaten. Kill another recruit, you'll be executed. Unless, of course, the trainers think it was impressive, then they might just clap. One of the older gladiators leans against a pillar nearby, arms folded. His muscles are absurd. He has scars on his face and a slight limp, but also a gold necklace. You realize he's a veteranus, a survivor of many games, maybe even a rudiarius, someone who's won his freedom but stuck around as a coach or contractor. You lock eyes for a moment, and he smirks, not friendly, just amused. Maybe he remembers what it was like to be you. Then the lanista drops the big truth. Most gladiators don't die in the arena. Surprised? You're not alone. The average fight didn't always end in death. Killing a trained gladiator is expensive after all. If a match ends with one fighter clearly defeated but alive, the editor, the guy sponsoring the games, might grant mercy. That's where the famous thumbs come in, but we'll get to that later. For now, the Lanista just lets it sit there, survive your training, fight well, and you might live long enough to make money, or even earn your rudies that wooden sword of freedom. You're dismissed. And just like that, the slow, aching routine begins. Your first day is light, just observation. You watch the senior trainees spar with wooden swords. They don't swing wildly. They follow forms, steps, footwork patterns. It's more ballet than brawl. Violent? Yes, but calculated. The trainers yell in Latin, sometimes Greek. You don't understand half of it, but the tone is universal. Don't screw up. You notice there are different types of fighters. One with a curved sword and small shield, another with a trident and net, a third with heavy armor and a visor. Each one has a different rhythm, different strengths. You'll be assigned your style based on your body type, agility, and what the Lanista thinks will sell best. Because remember, this is all for show. You also spot one woman among the trainees. Yes, gladiatrices were real. Rare, but real. Rome never quite knew what to do with them. Some crowds loved it. Others found it indecent. Historians still argue whether female gladiators were respected warriors or just sensational acts. Either way, she trains just as hard and glares just as coldly as the men. As the sun begins to dip behind the walls of the ludus, you're handed a bowl of food. It's a kind of porridge, mostly barley. No spices, maybe a few beans. The food is high carb, meant to build a protective layer of fat. Contrary to the ripped warriors you see in movies, real gladiators were often stockier. That layer helped absorb blows and made wounds less deadly. You eat in silence. No utensils. Just your fingers, like everyone else. And then, night again. Back to the bunk, back to the snores, the prayers, and the occasional muffled sob. You ache in places you didn't know existed. You curl into the scratchy blanket and exhale slowly. You've made it through day one. Only about 300 more to go. By dawn, your body already feels like it's given up. Every muscle groans as you roll off your straw mattress. But no one complains out loud, not really. Complaining is like painting a target on your forehead. And let's be honest, the guards have enough reasons to thwack you without extra motivation. You shuffle out into the palaestra, the training courtyard, where the stone tiles are still cool with morning dew. A soft Roman breeze carries the scent of olive oil, dust, and horse manure. The sun hasn't risen fully yet, but the drill instructors have. They don't yell, not at first. Their authority is so absolute, so thoroughly baked into the bones of this place that they don't have to. One barked command and the courtyard explodes into movement. Rows of men stretching, running in circles, lifting sandbags, swinging wooden swords in rhythm. The whole thing feels more like a military camp than a school. You join in, stiffly, poorly, and that's when you meet your doctore. This is your trainer, a former gladiator himself, retired, probably after surviving more fights than most men get birthdays. He has a permanent scowl etched into his face, a crooked nose that tells its own story, and an intimidating ability to appear directly behind you when you're slacking, which you are, constantly. He doesn't speak much, but when he does, it's in short commands. Feet wider. Breathe. Again. You hold a wooden sword that feels heavier than it looks. The balance is all wrong, your wrists are screaming, and your legs shake from the wide stances they force you into. You don't fight yet. First, you learn. The idea isn't just strength, it's discipline, coordination. Gladiator combat is half spectacle, half survival. You're not just swinging wildly, you're performing. And the crowd loves drama, not flailing. You learn to pose, seriously. After every combo of strikes, you pause in a heroic stance, chest out, sword up, chin lifted. It's absurd, but it's tradition. One of the guards mutters something about giving the crowd their bread with a side of butter, whatever that means. As the day drags on, you start to notice patterns. You're not just working out, you're being sorted. The instructors are watching you closely. Your height, your stamina, your aggression. They're figuring out what type of gladiator you'll become. And believe me, there are types. If you're small and fast, they might make you a retiarius, a net and trident fighter. Not very armored, but flashy and hard to hit. Like a fisherman with an anger problem. If you're stocky with good endurance, they'll push you toward being a Mamillo or a Secutor. Heavily armored with big rectangular shields and short stabbing swords. The classic tank. Maybe you'll become a Thraex with a curved blade and a helmet that looks like a bird of prey, or a Dimachorus fighting with two swords like something out of a fever dream. Historians still debate whether gladiators had much say in their fighting style, or if the choice was entirely up to the lanista. Based on how things feel right now, it's safe to say your opinion won't be in the top 10 factors. Lunch comes late. A thin soup with lentils and mystery vegetables. It tastes like someone tried to season it, gave up, and added more water instead. You slurp it down anyway. After lunch, more training. Now it's balance drills and controlled falls. You're taught how to land without breaking your neck, a surprisingly common beginner mistake. The sand in the courtyard cushions a bit, but not enough. Your elbows are already scratched raw. You get your first taste of combat later that week. Not real combat, just sparring with dull wooden weapons. You pair off with another recruit, both of you nervous and awkward. He charges like a bull. You swing too early, he trips, you both fall over. Somewhere a trainer sighs, you'll do this again and again for weeks. And then the diet kicks in. No, you're not getting shredded, you're being fattened up. Gladiators weren't built for beach selfies. They needed bulk, not only for energy and strength, but also for protection. That layer of fat helped soften superficial cuts and slowed bleeding, crucial in a profession where blood loss could be a death sentence. You start to crave the barley mush. It's bland but filling. And besides, it's one of the few comforts you get. Some nights the doctor gives a lesson by firelight. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, you listen. One night he tells you about the venationes, the beast hunts. Lions, leopards, crocodiles, even elephants. Sometimes the arena was flooded to stage fake naval battles. And yes, sometimes unlucky gladiators were tossed in with the animals, no weapons, just a prayer and a loincloth. He leans close and says, "You're lucky to be fighting men." You don't feel lucky. Your knuckles are cracked, your knees are sore, and your ribs ache from falling wrong. Again. Still, something is changing. You're stronger than you were. You don't wheeze after running laps anymore. You can parry, pivot, and strike without thinking too hard. The movements are starting to stick. There's even a moment, just a flicker, when you see yourself in the polished bronze of a water basin, and you almost don't recognize the face looking back. You're becoming a gladiator. Whether that's a good thing or not, well, that's a different story. Training ramps up. What started as clumsy sword swinging and dramatic falls has become something closer to performance art, with bruises. Your muscles, once soft and uncooperative, now hum with soreness and strength. You've moved from flailing to flowing, and while your wooden sword still looks like something a child might use, it's now an extension of your arm. You're up at dawn. Every dawn, there are no weekends, no breaks. The daily routine is relentless, running drills, sparring, shield work, more sparring. Then balance drills, walking across logs, ducking under swinging sandbags, and holding painful stances while the doctor walks around correcting posture by slapping your thighs with a cane. Your diet has become strangely comforting. It's still barley mush, sometimes with bits of fruit or onion mixed in. But your body has adjusted, and the food does its job. You're building weight. Contrary to modern gym culture, gladiators weren't meant to be lean and shredded. That protective layer of fat kept wounds from reaching vital organs too easily. One Roman medical writer called it armor made of flesh. Not quite a six-pack, but at least it's functional. You get supplements too. No, not whey protein or creatine. Mostly strange concoctions of herbs, vinegar, and ash. Sometimes bone powder. One fringe theory suggests gladiators may have even consumed plant ash as a kind of ancient electrolyte. Historians still argue whether this was nutritional science or just hopeful quackery. And don't forget the hot wine. Yes, wine. It's watered down and sometimes spiced, but it's part of daily life. Hydration, morale, calories, it's all in the cup. Each day, your training gets more specialized. You're being molded into your combat archetype. The armor starts arriving in pieces, a greave here, a helmet there. You try them on. Heavy, sweaty, surprisingly claustrophobic. You learn how to fight half-blind with one eye covered by a visor and how to breathe without panicking under layers of leather and iron. Then there's shield training. Less glamorous than swordplay, but arguably more important. You spend hours learning to angle the shield, absorb blows, and push opponents off balance. Every bruise on your forearm becomes a lesson. Even your grip gets retrained. Modern people don't think about how they hold things, but your trainers, they care deeply about your knuckles, wrist rotation, and thumb placement. Drop your weapon mid-fight, and you won't be getting a do-over. By week's end, you're exhausted, but you're no longer the confused, underfed shell of a person who arrived here. You're something else now, sharper, heavier, deadlier. Whether that's a good thing, hard to say. The dorms begin to feel like home, or at least something approximating it. You know your bunkmates by now. There's Lucius, who never stops humming. Margot, who used to be a cook until he accidentally insulted the wrong senator. And Rufus, the mountain of a man who once broke a sparring dummy clean in half. Each of them is training in a different style. You learn to recognize their weapons and rhythm. Margot, nimble and wiry, practices with a net and trident. He grins when he fights like it's a game. Lucius favors the curved Thracian blade. Rufus? He's pure brute force, a murmillo with a shield the size of a barn door. You eat together, bleed together, and sometimes laugh. Dark, brief laughter that fizzles out quickly. There's a strange kind of camaraderie among those who share the same odds. Then there's the veterans that they rarely speak. When they do, it's with words that carry weight. They walk with the slow confidence of men who have faced death and won. Some have limps. Others have scars like rivers carved into their skin. One even has a missing ear. These men are your unofficial role models and your reminders that survival is possible, barely. In quieter moments, you hear their stories. One claims he fought in the Colosseum during the Emperor's birthday games. Another says he once beat a lion with a club. You're not sure how much is true, but none of it feels entirely impossible anymore. There's also gossip. Gladiators talk about everything, especially the audience. Word spreads that the senator's wife keeps attending games just to see a certain Retiarius. Another rumor says a champion fell in love with a noblewoman and escaped, disguised as a merchant. Spoiler. They found him 3 weeks later. Romance in the ludus rarely ends well, but the most unsettling stories, they're about gladiators who never made it to the arena. Some died in training. Others were sold again to fight in obscure provinces or worse, to become private bodyguards for cruel masters. Once, you hear of a man who was sent into the beast pits not as a fighter, but as bait. No armor, no weapons, just a warning to others. Still, despite the gloom, something in you starts to adapt. Maybe it's the human instinct to find rhythm in routine, even if that routine includes getting hit with wooden swords every day. You begin to talk less and observe more. Your footwork improves. You no longer flinch at every strike. Your bunkmate Lucius says it best. You don't get good at this. You just get hard to kill. Let's talk medicine, because when you get clubbed in the ribs or catch a trident in the thigh, someone has to patch you up. Enter the medicus, the gladiator school's in-house healer. He's half doctor, half mortician, with a toolkit that looks more like a torture set. Bronze scalpels, long tweezers, clay jars filled with mystery salves. You sit in his smoky little chamber as he pokes at a dislocated finger with the enthusiasm of a man tightening furniture screws. "Stop squirming," he mutters. Incredibly, the medicine mostly works. Wounds are cleaned with vinegar. Poultices are made from herbs, honey, and sometimes crushed insects. Pain relief? You get opium if you're lucky. If not, you get a leather strap to bite. Fringe treatments abound. One guy swears by boiled mouse brains. Another insists a paste made from goat droppings and olive oil cured his rash. Historians still argue whether these concoctions were ancient science or creative desperation. You don't care. If it burns but heals, you'll take it. Then there are the poisons, subtle, slow, and often suspicious. Not all gladiators play fair. If you're rising through the ranks too quickly, there's always the risk someone might slip something into your wine. Stomach cramps before a match? Coincidence, maybe. Or maybe someone's making sure you don't overshadow the champion. Fame is fickle and competitive. Oddly, poets visit the ludus sometimes. They come to write verses about promising fighters. One compares you to Mars, the god of war. You assume he's joking until he shows you a clay tablet with your name on it. You're a subject in a sonnet. That's weirdly flattering. Doctors, poets, poisoners. You never expected such a diverse support team in a place where men routinely try to stab each other. But the gladiator world is full of surprises. You now understand that gladiator combat isn't just about killing, it's about performance. You don't just fight, you entertain, you dazzle, you follow the script, and occasionally you improvise. Every style has its rhythm. The Murmillo advances like a fortress. The Retiarius dances like a fisherman trying to catch wind. You've spent hours mimicking these styles, learning not just how to attack, but how to look good doing it. The doctor drills this into you: posture, expression, control. You rehearse mock kills, complete with dramatic pauses, a final slash, a heroic pose, a death fall, slow and theatrical. The crowd doesn't just want blood, they want storytelling. You also learn how to fight with someone. Choreographed duels are common, especially in training games. These aren't rigged, but they're practiced. There's a script, with room for chaos. You and your partner memorize key moves, but leave space for improvisation if something goes wrong. The best fighters? They know how to sell a hit. Stagger back, bleed just enough, snarl with flair. Even in agony, you must look glorious. And then there's the weapon drill. You learn to disarm and be disarmed. The audience loves a comeback. If your sword is knocked away and you recover, spectacular. If you drop it on purpose and still win, legendary. Your instructor reminds you of one unspoken truth. The man who dies with style is remembered longer than the one who survives like a coward. You're skeptical, but deep down you start to get it. Outside the walls of the ludus, the city buzzes with gossip. Gladiators, it turns out, are celebrities. Rome's people, rich and poor, adore them. Kids carve wooden swords and mimic your moves. Women scribble your name on walls in red ochre. Men place bets on your fights and swear they could take you in a duel after their third cup of wine. You've received a token, an amulet maybe, from a secret admirer. No name, just a message. To the brave one with eyes like storm clouds. Weirdly poetic, a bit unsettling. Fame, even at this level, is a double-edged sword. Your likeness might appear on cheap pottery or scratched into benches. You hear your nickname chanted in the market. There's a story circulating that you once defeated 3 men in a single match. You didn't. But no one seems to care. Some gladiators lean into it. They preen, flirt, boast. One guy starts wearing perfume to practice. Another greases his muscles before public parades. The crowd eats it up. But attention can turn dangerous. One veteran warns you, the crowd that loves you today will cheer your death tomorrow. They're loyal to spectacle, not souls. He's not wrong. A famous gladiator was once poisoned by a fan who wanted to keep him perfect forever. Another was stabbed by a jealous husband. Love and envy walk hand in hand here. Still, there's a strange pride in being known. You're not invisible anymore. You're not just another slave. You're someone, even if that someone is often covered in bruises. The day comes, you've been assigned your first real match, not a training bout, not a choreographed spar, a public fight in the Colosseum. Your name, or rather your new name, is listed on the match slate. Sceva the Spaniard, the others nod. A few clap you on the shoulder. One hands you a sharpened piece of metal and says, "Hide this in your boot, just in case." You don't know if he's joking. You spend the next few days rehearsing your moves, polishing your gear, oiling your skin. Presentation matters. Even your helmet is buffed to a mirror sheen. The Doctore drills you harder than ever. Every misstep is a lecture. Every successful combo earns a grunt of approval. You can't sleep. Your dreams are filled with sand, noise, and the flash of steel. You wake up gasping, clutching your chest. Some try to fake illness. Others pray. One man drinks wine until he collapses. There's no shame in fear, only in hesitation. Before dawn on the big day, you eat. Slowly. Bread, barley, olives. You're led to the dressing area beneath the Colosseum. The Hypogeum. It's dim, damp, full of sounds, growls, chains, whispered prayers. You see beasts in cages, wagons full of props, and other fighters waiting silently. Some stare into the void. Others smile nervously. A few are already crying. And then it's time. The noise hits you first. It's like thunder, but alive. The Colosseum is packed. 50,000 people cheering, jeering, shouting. You walk into a wall of sound. Your ears buzz. The arena floor is bright. Sand scorched by the morning sun. The space feels vast and intimate at the same time, like a stage in the center of a volcano. You enter through the gate, flanked by guards. The crowd cranes to see you. A few call your name. Others boo. It's part of the fun. You try not to trip over your own feet. Your opponent waits across the sand. He's taller, heavier, and has the calm swagger of someone who's done this before. A Mamillo. You tighten your grip on your shield. A trumpet blares. The editor of the games stands in his box. Some high-ranking noble, maybe even the emperor. He raises a hand. The match begins. You circle, heart pounding, feet shifting. You remember your training. Keep the shield up. Watch the hips, not the hands. Breathe. He lunges. You deflect. You swing. The crowd gasps. Time slows. Your body moves on its own. Blocks, dodges, counterattacks. You take a blow to the side. Pain blooms, but you don't fall. You catch him off guard with a jab. The crowd roars. And then he stumbles. You stand over him, sword raised. The arena goes quiet. Now comes the moment. Mercy or death. You look up to the editor's box. The audience waits. Some shout, "Let him live." Others, "Finish him." You glance at your opponent. He's breathing hard, bleeding, but alive. The editor gives the signal. Thumb turned sideways. Mercy. You lower your blade. The crowd erupts. You've survived. You help him to his feet. He nods once, eyes sharp with something like respect. No words, there's no need. You've both played your parts in the oldest show on Earth. Back in the Hypogeum, you're pulled aside. A medicus checks your wound. Shallow. A few stitches, a smear of salve, and you're good as new-ish. The rest of the day is a blur. You're paraded briefly before the crowd, then herded back to the ludus. Exhausted, sweaty, aching, but alive. You're lucky. Not just because you survived, but because of that thumb signal. Now about that gesture, it's been wildly misunderstood for centuries. The common myth says thumbs down meant death and thumbs up meant mercy. In truth, it's muddier. Historians still argue the exact meaning, but one theory holds that a closed fist with a hidden thumb meant sheathe the sword, while an extended thumb symbolized finish the job. In other words, the thumb wasn't up or down, it was in or out. Roman audiences loved this ritual. It made them feel involved, but it was also deeply symbolic. The editor controlled life and death, yes, but so did the crowd in spirit. Their cries swayed decisions. Their thirst for blood shaped your fate. Gladiators lived on the edge of spectacle and sacrifice. You're starting to get used to it. Beneath the glory and gore lies a mess of politics and profit. Gladiator games weren't just sport. They were a business, and a political one at that. Every match required planning. The editor, who paid for the games, chose fighters, arranged events, and covered the costs. This wasn't cheap. Armor, weapons, trainers, even musicians. Yes, musicians. Roman games had soundtracks, sometimes flutes, sometimes drums, because what's a duel without some dramatic flair? And betting? Oh, there was betting. Spectators gambled on everything. Winner, loser, number of blows, even length of the fight. The stands were a riot of side deals and shouted odds. Bookies were everywhere, some honest, some less so. Rumors always swirled about fixed matches, fights that were accidentally shorter, champions who threw bouts for cash. Even the Lanista might be in on it, if the price was right. Then there's bribery. You hear whispers of guards being paid to smuggle in weapons, or poison, or sedatives. The deeper you look, the dirtier it gets. The Colosseum isn't just sand and blood, it's a marketplace for power. And sometimes, behind the scenes, games were staged as messages. A senator might use a gladiator's death to insult a rival. An emperor might show mercy to a popular fighter to boost approval. Politics wrapped in violence disguised as fun. You just try to stay out of it? But in Rome, everyone's part of the performance. You survive your first match, then your second, then your third. Weeks pass, the bruises fade slower, but your movements sharpen. You start teaching newer recruits, awkward kids with too long limbs and eyes too wide. And for the first time, you get a day off. Not much of one, but the Lanista lets you skip training and go into the city under guard. You walk the streets of Rome in your tunic, a few coins tucked in your belt. Some people recognize you. A butcher offers free figs. A child asks to touch your arm. You smile, weirdly proud, but you're still a slave, still watched, still owned. You pass other ludus groups, fighters from different schools. Some nod, others sneer. Rivalries stretch beyond the arena. Sometimes fights break out in taverns. Those are not sanctioned. Back at the ludus, there's no such thing as a real off-season. When there aren't games, there are appearances. You march in parades, sit for sculptors, occasionally serve as guards at private parties. Some fighters are even rented out to settle disputes between rich men. One landowner sends his champion to duel another's. Legal contracts signed, bets placed, winner takes land. Your life has turned into a profession, not a safe one, but a strange sort of stable, until the next summons comes. One day the doctor calls you aside. He's holding something in his hands. A rudis, the wooden sword, symbol of freedom. You've earned it. Technically, it means you can leave. You're no longer bound to fight, no longer property. A rudiarius. The other gladiators cheer, some clap. Others just nod. Deep, solemn nods. But it's not always so simple. Freedom comes with options. You can retire, leave Rome, open a tavern, disappear, or you can stay. Many do. Why? Fame, camaraderie, purpose. Out there, you're just another ex-slave. In here, you're someone. Here, you're known. Some rudiari become instructors, others perform in special matches, paid handsomely. A few act as bodyguards for senators. One even opened his own training school. You consider your future. Leave, and you might live quietly. Stay, and you might die gloriously. You choose to stay for now. The years pass. You fight less now. Your role shifts. Mentor, instructor, occasional performer. New recruits ask you for advice. You tell them the truth. Keep your shield up. Don't panic. Die with style if you must. The Colosseum is the same, but the faces change. New champions rise. Some fall in minutes. Others become legends. You still visit the arena sometimes. You walk the tunnels, stand in the sand, feel the ghosts. Your name fades from graffiti. Fewer fans cheer. But you remember. You remember the noise, the sun, the blood, the mercy, the cruelty, the spectacle. You were part of it. And though historians still argue what being a gladiator really meant, whether it was bravery or brutality, freedom or slavery, you know. You were there, you survived, and now, as the arena quiets and the torches dim, you can finally exhale. You lie back on the straw mat of your bunk, arms tucked behind your head, and let the weight of the years drift off your shoulders. No more shouting trainers. No more cold steel or roaring crowds. Just the hush of your own breath and the soft creak of ancient wood as you settle in. The walls around you blur and fade, becoming the gentle curves of a dream. You can almost hear the distant lull of Rome beyond the walls, the clop of horseshoes, the soft laughter of a market closing, the hush of fountains gurgling in shadowed courtyards. Even the scars feel distant now, each one a memory, not a wound. The pain has dulled, the fear has passed. What remains is the quiet pride of survival, of having endured something impossible and come out the other side. Let your breathing slow, let your thoughts melt into the cool sand beneath a painted sky. There's nothing left to fight, no more games, just peace. The arena sleeps now, and so can you.